ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. So I welcome all the devotees for Bhagavad Gita class. So reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. Text 32. So we will be discussing text 32 and 33. Anaditva nirgunatvat Paramatmayam avyayam Paramatmayam avyayaha Sharirastopi kaunteya Nakaroti na lipyate Nakaroti na lipyate Anaditva nirgunatvat Paramatmayam avyayaha Sharirastopi kaunteya Nakaroti na lipyate Anaditva nirgunatvat Paramatmayam avyayaha Sharirastopi kaunteya Nakaroti na lipyate. Word meanings. Anaditvat, due to eternity. Nirgunatvat, due to being transcendental. Parama, beyond material nature. Atma, spirit. Ayam, this. Avyayaha, inexhaustible. Sharirastha, dwelling in the body. Api, though. Kaunteya, O son of Kunti. Nakaroti, never does anything. Na lipyate, nor he is entangled. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charana Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Purport. A living entity appears to be born because of the birth of the material body, but actually the living entity is eternal. He is not born, and in spite of his being situated in a material body, he is transcendental and eternal. Thus, he cannot be destroyed. By nature, he is full of bliss. He does not engage himself in any materialistic activities. Therefore, the activities performed due to his contact with material bodies do not entangle him. So I'll read 33rd verse also. Yatha sarvagatam sukshmyat akasham nopalipyate sarvatra vastito dehe tathatma nopalipyate. The sky, translation, the sky due to its subtle nature does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman, vision, does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Purport. The air enters into water, mud, stool, and whatever else is there. Still, it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, is aloof from them due to his subtle nature. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with this body and how he is out of it after the destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnu Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvise Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantarada Kantaramostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome all the devotees. So for this reading of Srimad Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, Anaditvan Nirgunatvat Paramatmayam Avyayah Sarirastopi Kaunteya Nakaroti Nalipyate. Therefore, with the vision of eternity, can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So, in these two shlokas, we can see Krishna is describing the characteristics of a person in pure consciousness. You know, a spirit soul, a jiva in pure consciousness. How? So we all know, we all read in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita where Krishna tells, you know, the basic characteristics of soul. Dehinosmin yadha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantar prapte dhirastatra namhyate. So yeah, where he tells avinashis tadviddhi ena sarvam idam satam vinashanam abhyasyasya nakaschit kartum arhati. So the soul is there, you know, entire body. Then he tells, yeah, this thing. Antavantu ime deha nitya shokta sharirana anasina prameyasya tasmat yuddhasya bharata. Material body is indestructible, immeasurable, eternal. So, and this yes, these two shlokas, you know, Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, nachainam chediyanti abu, nasoshayati marutaha. So same thing here, you know, how Krishna is telling here, how the soul is also eternal and transcendental. And later Krishna again tells that the soul is unbreakable, insoluble, and how it is invisible, inconceivable, you know, immutable. And so there's so many characteristics Krishna describes. So, but here, like, you know, especially a person where actually in the starting of this chapter, as we all know, that Arjuna is asking 6 questions. So Krishna is describing the answers to these 6 questions. What are these 6 questions? That Prakriti, what is Prakriti? You know, what is this material nature? And what is Purusha? So who is the enjoyer of this material nature? Then Kshetra. So what is the field of activities for the one who is in this material world? What is that field? Like for example, if for the farmer, the field, he has to go and execute his duties in the field. Like, you know, he does tilling, you know, sowing, like so many activities in the same way. What is Kshetra? Then what is Kshetrajna? So, and when you do this in the Kshetra, what kind of experiences, who experiences this, the result of these activities, Kshetrajna. Then he tells what is Gnana, what is knowledge, and what is the process of acquiring knowledge. Then he tells what is Gneyam, what is the object of this knowledge. So here in this section, he is mainly giving what is the knowledge about the spirit soul. So here we can see that how a person, we know that if I am having their body, so mostly, you know, like majority of the people act on this bodily consciousness. They think that I am this body. Now I am not. Very few people knows I am spirit soul. Even somebody knows theoretically that I am a spirit soul, but to act on that platform is not easy. One is theoretically understanding that I am spirit soul, and another is acting. So a self-realized person, so he can act on this platform because that a self-realized person, what is the meaning of this self-realized person? If any person who is most dear to me, who is the most dear to me? Myself. Actually, in this world, I have so many entanglements, or I can say so many relationships. But among all the things, who is the most dear to me? I am the most dear. Why I am most dear? Like myself. Like for example, if there is any fire in this place, so first I try to save myself, you know, because I am the most dear person to me. Why? Because as a super soul, Krishna is existing always with me. Actually, when I say I am most dear, here the Krishna is the most dear. He is with me, but I forgot that he is with me. I always see, you know, I am not keeping Krishna as the center. I am the center. So all my activities are resolving around I. When I shift from I center to center as Krishna, so then I can really experience that bliss. What is that? So here we can see one nice example for this is this Brahma Vimohan Lila, where we all know in Vrindavan, when Krishna 5000 years back, so when Brahma was bewildered and he stole all the cowherd boys, his friends, and cows, everything he stole, and immediately Krishna expanded himself into the same like all his cows friends. So, and we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the love with which the mothers, they were taking care of, you know, their children, has increased manifold. You know why? Because now initially they were loving their children or their cows, but now they are loving Krishna. because the Krishna is there as their self. Actually Krishna is the actual source of everything. So their love is reports towards the proper way. So they were their love has increased manifold. So actually in the Bhagavatam, I just want to read this special shloka where Sukadeva Goswami is telling to Parikshit Maharaj that it should be understood that he is the Paramatma of even pure Jivas. He is compared with the sun in relation with Jivas, who are compared with the rays of the sun. So here it is saying, because a Jiva loves Jiva actually loves Paramatma. That is the reason he is loves himself. So where it is said that Tasmat Priyatamasvatma Sarvesham Eva Dehinam Tadartam Eva Sakalam Jagadeta Characharam. Therefore, one's own self is the most dear to every embodied living being. It is simply for the satisfaction of the self that the whole material creation of moving and non-moving entity exists. So the next is speaking, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking, Krishna menam eva hitvam atmanam akhilatmanam jagad dithayo sopi atra dehiva bhatimayaya. You should know Krishna to be Atma of all the Atmas. Okay. So what does it mean? Like, for example, as you might have heard, because the Paramatma concept is there only in the material world. So that means in the spiritual world there is no concept of Paramatma. What does it mean? That means I am always conscious of the person Krishna. So there is no need of Paramatma. Actually in this material world I always think, if I do anything, what will I get? This is what is my consciousness. What will I get? Why should I do? When we go for preaching also we tell, you please chant, chant and be happy. So when we preach to someone also, we tell, when you chant, you will be happy. But actually, when I chant, why am I chanting? Why should I chant? Like Yashoda Maya. Anything Yashoda Maya is doing, or any associate of Krishna, what they do? They do anything, they do only for the pleasure of Krishna. So they don't need to think, why I don't need to think that can I be happy if I do anything? So whether happiness will come to me or suffering will come to me, I don't need to think. Because by thinking that Krishna is the center and by I have to give only happiness to Krishna, in that statement itself my happiness is there. Because I am part and parcel of Krishna. There is no need to think that whether I will be happy or not. So there are so many innumerable stories we can discuss about like this, especially this thing. But to cultivate that consciousness is a very, very difficult. So till we come to perfectional state, complete perfectional stage, we always think, why should I do anything? And we have to go, if some devotee tells anything, even spiritual matter tells anything. So if I am not having pure consciousness, I always question, why should I do? What will I get? Whether it will give me success or failure, or it will give me happiness or distress. Because this is the problem in the conditioned state. So I should understand that if somebody has this consciousness, yatha tarur mula niseshanena truptyanti tatskanda bhujopashaha bhujopashaka pranapahacha yathendriyanam tathaiva sarvarharam achyuteja. That means if Krishna is the center, all my activities I should do only for the pleasure of Krishna. Then even the so-called distress, it will not affect me. Even the so-called, happiness will not affect me. Because we can see here, Krishna is telling, the soul is transcendental, eternal, beyond the modes of material nature. Because the happiness and distress, these are all, both are in the, both will entangle me. But there is no distress in the spiritual world? Yes, there may be a distress, but that is transcendental. That is transcendental. So we can see how all the Vrajavasis, they were in separation of Krishna for many years, but they were living with one hope that Krishna will someday will give his darshan. So this point, he does not engage himself in any material activities. Therefore, the activities performed due to his contact with material bodies do not entangle him. So there is a verse I want to also tell. Rupa Goswami tells in Nectar of Instruction, what is the vision with which we should see a pure devotee. Because somebody may be doing, somebody may be carrying books, somebody may be printing books, somebody may be going in kirtan, somebody may be cooking, maybe preaching, but he may be in pure consciousness. He may be doing all these things, but he may be beyond modes of nature. So how, a person with pure consciousness, how we should see him. So where he tells this shloka, दृष्ट स्वभाव जनितैव पुषस्य दोषै न प्राकृतमिह भक्तजनस्य पश्येत् गंगां वसाम्न कलबुद्बुदर्पेन पंके ब्रह्मद्रवमुपगच्छति नीरधर्मै. Where he tells, being situated in his original Krishna consciousness position, when we say here beyond modes and he is not entangled, that means he is in Krishna consciousness position. A pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam and mud. The Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. So, through this analogy, Srila Rupa Goswami is explaining how, this is a rainy season. So, because of rain, sometimes the Ganges water looks muddy, with foam bubble. But it's always pure. One who knows that Ganges water is pure, he never thinks that, I am taking bath in the mud water or impure water. So in the same way, a pure devotee, we should not identify, he does not, with him, because he is beyond modes of material nature. So especially when we deal with devotees in our movement, we do not know how a devotee is advanced, so we should never disrespect and we should never identify, especially, acharyas who tirelessly preach, the glories of the Lord to others who are engaged in the spreading of the mission of Lord Chaitanya. We should never consider them on bodily consciousness. We should be very careful. Okay. So next shloka is again Krishna is explaining through an analogy. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, though it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. So the example here is the sky. like nothing will mix in the sky. So in the same way, a spirit soul may be there in me. So my body is made it of, 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, Pancha Mahabhutas. But the soul will never mix with this body. It is there. So here Prabhupada is explaining, like, no one in science can ascertain this, because all the scientific understanding, the so-called understanding is to analyze these 5 elements. But the soul is, beyond these 5 elements. It is made up of, like it is made up of Sat Chit Ananda, like elements, if we say. So, so now it will never make. So a scientist, the so-called scientist can never understand. When we say science here, it's Prabhupada is referring to the material science, So similarly, how a living entity and absolute truth are compared, Srila Prabhupada explains in one book, The Light of Bhagavata. So I would like to read a part of it from here. So to understand how a living entity can be illusioned, and how he can be freed. So this is I'm sure all of you might be knowing. So recently we were discussing this chapter with many lessons are there. This book, Light of Bhagavata, Srila Prabhupada wrote in 1961, 60 years back. When Srila Prabhupada, 1961, he was in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada saw an advertisement that there is some religious conference was happening in Japan. So Srila Prabhupada thought that he wants to go and present there the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam to them, so that there may be a chance that they may accept, and the Krishna consciousness can be spread. So Srila Prabhupada thought, if I go there, I should have some presentation. So Srila Prabhupada wrote this chapter, one small book, which is called The Light of Bhagavata. So Srila Prabhupada has taken one chapter from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 20th chapter, where the description of autumn season. So in this chapter, for each verse, Prabhupada wrote a short commentary explaining, how they are compared to, different analogies. Like this entire chapter is full of analogies explaining the different situations in the world, comparisons, of different living entities or different situations, how we should perceive them. So Srila Prabhupada wrote this thing, but somehow Srila Prabhupada could not go. So later, in 1978, after disappearance of Srila Prabhupada, so this book was compiled and printed by BBT, and they also made a beautiful illustrations. So, but this first verse is very relevant for this understanding. The arrival of clouds accompanied by thunder and flashes of lightning all over the sky provides a picture of life-giving hope. Covered by deep bluish clouds, the sky appears artificially dressed. The thundering and lightning within the clouds are signs of hope for a new way of life. Okay, so the serene sky, limitlessly expansive, is compared to the absolute truth. So the point which I am trying to explain here is that how Krishna is here compared to a sky. What is the sky? This is a clear sky. We never find the entire sky is covered. Okay, always a part of sky is covered. Maybe if part of sky in Vrindavan may be covered, but some other part of India it is not covered. Okay, so sky is always just only a portion of the sky is covered always. Now the living entities are truths manifested in relation with the material modes of nature. So here Prabhupada is comparing the Krishna absolute truth and Jivas are relative truths. So a relative truth is in comparison to the modes of material nature. So now the deep bluish clouds covers only an insignificant portion of the limitless sky, and this fractional cover is compared to the quality of ignorance or forgetfulness of the real nature of living being. That means a living entity is also, part of the absolute truth. But from my vision, when a sky is covered, I don't see that part. Why? Because it is covered. That covering is compared to the ignorance. Because of ignorance, I am not perceiving I am part of the absolute truth. So a living entity is as pure as the limitless sky. Means I am also part and parcel of Krishna. So Prabhupada gives an example. How, you take a mountain of gold and you take a particle of gold. Both are qualitatively same. So in that sense, here a living entity is also as pure as the limitless sky. He becomes covered by the cloud of forgetfulness. However, in his tendency for enjoying this material world. So what is the root cause? The desire to enjoy separate from Krishna. If I have consciousness that I should give only pleasure for Krishna, then there is no problem. But here the desire to enjoy separately, that is the main root cause of the problem. Because of this quality called ignorance, tamas, he considers himself different from the absolute whole and forgets his purity, which is like that of the clear sky. This forgetfulness gives rise to separatism in false ego. Thus, the forgetful living entities, individually and collectively, make sounds like thundering clouds. That means, there is a one cloud, another cloud. So they come and collide and make, sound. So in the same way, I also forgot, and there is some other living entity who also forgot about the absolute truth. So we create so much, unnecessary disturbances in this material world. So how these clouds say, I am this, it is ours, it is mine. These are the sounds. Somebody comes, I am American, I am Indian, I am Australian, So this is the sounds which I am making. I am boy, I am girl, I am man, I am woman, I am rich, I am poor. So these are all the distinctions which I have created. This mood of false separatism is called the quality of rajas. First ignorance, then because of this ignorance, now I am creating separatism, that is called rajas, and it gives rise to creative forces for separate lordship over the mode of tamas. Okay, so this is a very important point. The flash of lightning is the only beam of hope that can lead one to the path of knowledge, and therefore it is compared to the mode of sattva, goodness. So these are the situations. Here the flash of lightning is compared to a hope. We can see in all of our lives there are some very rare situations where the transformation takes place. And even we can see in the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni, so he is traveling cities, Janapadas, and forest, mines, he's traveling, and at certain point of time where Krishna gives him darshan, just for a flash, for a very rare, for very time. Then again he tries to look for that darshan, Narada Muni, but he never gets. Krishna tells, no. So Krishna tells him, Narada Muni tells that, avipakva kashayanam kuyoginam. So now you are still, imperfect. Prabhupada translates, avipakva means you are still imperfect. Kashayanam means you are materially, still material dirt is there. Kuyoginam means incomplete in service, Prabhupada tells. Because of this, you will not be able to see me. So for us also, Krishna gives these lights, the lightening situations, a rays of hope in our Krishna consciousness practices when we do sincerely, because they are hope-giving situations. With that taste, we try to continue further to get another situation, another hope-giving situation. So those hope-giving situations will take us close to Krishna. So this lightening is compared to what? Goodness. So the three things. The forgetfulness of Krishna is ignorance, that is like tamas, and creating the separatism mentality, which is compared to rajas, and the hope is the lightening of is compared to the hope giving situations, which is compared to the mode of goodness. So that is the reason Srila Prabhupada always tells you should be in mood of goodness for practicing Krishna consciousness. Once Burijan Prabhu writes in his book Art of Teaching, Srila Prabhuji gives one full essay, on the mode of goodness, where he tells once, I think in 1968 maybe, in the New York, Burijan Prabhu was, Srila Prabhupada was speaking, as a devotee, we should be always in mode of goodness. So Burijan Prabhu raised his hand and asked, Srila Prabhupada, you tells that we have to go beyond mode of goodness. Yes, a devotee should go beyond mode of goodness, but one should act in the mode of goodness. When he is in the association of devotees, he should act in the mode of goodness, our all actions. So now, I will just, so the limitless sky or the all-pervading absolute truth is non-different from covered portion of the sky. But simultaneously, the whole sky is different from the fractional portion that is liable to be covered by the dark cloud. The dark cloud, accompanied by thunder and lightning, cannot possibly cover the limitless sky. So this is what I was telling. So as a living entity, sometimes people tell that when you come to perfectional state, you are God. This is the, impersonalist presented. No. A living entity can never become God. So here a cloud can never cover the entire sky. It can only cover a fractional portion. Okay. Therefore, the absolute truth, which is compared to the whole sky, is simultaneously one with the manifested living being and different from him. The living being is only a sample of the absolute truth and prone to be covered by the circumstantial cloud of ignorance. So this is then Srila Prabhupada gives a solution here. That what is the solution? There are two parties of philosophers, generally known as monist and dualist. The monist believes in the oneness of the absolute truth and the living entity, but the dualist believes in the separate identities of the living. So Srila Prabhupada tells there are two kinds of people. One is, we can say, what is that? Advaita and Dvaita. Advaita, which is monist, Dvaita, which is dualist. And Srila Prabhupada tells that above the two classes of philosophers is the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, the philosophy of simultaneous oneness and difference, the truth of simultaneous oneness and difference. This philosophy was pronounced by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His explanation of the Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutra is the medium of philosophical interpretations, and thus the Vedanta cannot be absolute property of any particular class of philosopher. A sincere seeker of the absolute is called a Vedantist. Veda means knowledge. Any department of knowledge is called part of the Vedic knowledge. Vedanta means the ultimate conclusion of all branches of knowledge. So as philosophy is called the science of sciences, Vedanta is the ultimate philosophy of all philosophical speculations. Krishna also tells, Vedaisya sarvai ahameva vedyo, Vedanta krut veda videva chaham. So in conclusion, what we can understand here is that A person who is in the perfectional state, Krishna is describing his characteristics. So he's not something, he will be having a different body, or he's made up of something entirely different. No, he may be, for our vision, he may be in the present body, but so we should be very careful in seeing that person who is in the pure consciousness, he is beyond modes of material nature, and he is never affected by what he is doing, whatever actions. Okay, so I'll stop here. Thank you. Any comments, questions?
As you were giving the example of a pure devotee, so any devotee who is chanting Hare Krishna, Prabhupada said he is a devotee. So should we criticize or should we find fault in the devotee?
Please only judge devotees if you are asked. If you are being given a service, and to rectify that service, if you have to provide some feedback, you can do that. Or else nobody has any right to criticize any devotee. It's not only devotee, it's a basic etiquette even in outside. Like there may be so many people, so many government employees, so many offices, so much maybe right practices are not followed. Why should I criticize? I am not the person to criticize. So then why, when coming to devotees association, if I am giving a service to rectify, to improve that service, if I have to provide some feedback in a respectful way, I can do that. If I have been asked, if I have been assigned, or else I don't have any right to, judge somebody.
As Prabhupada was merciful, anything happened to any devotees, Prabhupada used to chastise them, then again he was very friendly with that devotees. So we see how Prabhupada was behaving, and we should act in that way, but sometimes we don't act in that way.
Because we are not on that level. Because we have to understand devotees through, first we have to understand Tattva, then through Leela. So we have to understand the Tattva. Prabhupada understood, we have to see, I can't, okay, Prabhupada was doing this, I can also do. Prabhupada said, Prabhupada once, he goes to, I think to some visa office or something, I read in some anecdote, so where he chastises the visa officer very badly, but he comes back while traveling back, he tells that I am an elder person, I can do it, none of you should do this, he tells. So some things, we should follow, and we should not imitate. So there is two things, I think. One is imitation, another is following. So we should follow Prabhupada, we should not imitate Prabhupada. Thank you. Okay. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। हरे कृष्ण। वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।